All right. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's episode of Prince Hall Think Tank. The Prince Hall Think Tank is a monthly show where we talk about various topics relating to Prince Hall Masonry. My name is Dave Gillarm. I'm your host for the night. I'm a past master of Mount Piscalage number 53, located in Columbus, Georgia, where the Honorable Cornelius Wilson serves as our worshipful master. And I also have the pleasure of serving as a worshipful grand historian for the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Georgia, where the Honorable Bruce A. James serves as our most worshipful Grand Master. Tonight's episode, Light Out of Darkness, we're going to take a look inside the Phylaxis Society's Lux E Tenebris Chapter, where Brother Honeywell serves as the director of that chapter. Tonight, we do not have the pleasure of having Brother Ken Collins and Brother Curtis Black with us tonight. But as always, feel free to post your questions in the Prince Hall Think Tank group or the Prince Hall Think Tank Facebook page. And as usual, and as always, the thoughts and opinions that are expressed by us tonight in no way reflect the thoughts and opinions of the lodges and Grand Lodges in which we hold membership. So next, I'm going to pass to Brother James Morgan, where he's going to introduce himself.
Thank you, Brother Gillarm. My name is James R. Morgan III. I'm past master of Corinthian Lodge number 18 here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. I have the pleasure and honor of serving as the Worshipful Associate Grand Historian for the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of D.C., where the Honorable Philip David is currently presiding as our Most Worshipful Grand Master, and all is well with Freemasonry here in the nation's capital. I'm going to now pass it over to our special guest for the evening. I speak of none other than our good brother, worshipful master, and might I say, Dr. Marlon Honeywell.
Brothers and sisters, good evening. My name is Marlon Honeywell. I serve as worshipful master of J.R.E. Lee Lodge number 422 in Tallahassee, Florida. And my Grand Master is the Honorable Walter Gully Jr. He's the 18th most worshipful Grand Master for the jurisdiction of Florida. And I'm certainly honored to be here and look forward to a fantastic discussion. I'm excited about
All right, thank you about that, Brother Honeywell. There's something else that Brother Morgan didn't mention out, which we had to establish prior to the show, that me and Brother Honeywell were classmates. We both received a 33rd degree in Houston, Texas in 2014. It was a very memorable occasion. So can't leave that out.
Can you guys tell us what happened that night? Can you let me know? Okay. Can't blame me for trying.
All right. To get into the topic of the show before we pass to Brother Honeywell, in the previous episode we talked about the Phylaxis Society and what they meant to Prince Hall researchers, well, or just researchers in general. And inside the Phylaxis Society, there's different departments, and one of those departments is the Lux E Tenebris Chapter. They've done a great amount of work. They published a book, which you're going to hear about short on this episode as well. And we're just going to get into what's involved in that chapter, how you can possibly be involved, get involved with them, and hopefully we get some. I'm pretty sure we're going to get some good education out of this. So now we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Brother Honeywell.
All right.
Go ahead.
Wait a minute. Huh?
Yeah, I think you skipped.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
All right.
Once again, brothers and sisters, it's certainly an honor and a privilege to be here with you today. I'm really excited, and I want to thank the Prince Hall Think Tank for having me on here. Lux E Tenebris is certainly a wonderful chapter part and a great part of the Phylaxis Society. I'm honored to serve as its director and master right now. And I want to go through a few things in terms of what Lux E Tenebris does, and more importantly, for you all to begin to think about how we get to the point of writing the transactions. All of it's really a process, and it's, as you know, research is very important, and there's a process to research, but I want to go through some of the things that I have done in terms of my research to bring me to a point where I'm ready to actually write something, and then we'll talk a little bit about the book towards the end. Generally, whenever I conduct research, one of the things that I usually do is I try to find an overarching theme. And for me, that theme generally drives the kinds of things that I think about and the kinds of things that I'm willing to write. For me, one of my favorite philosophers is Socrates. Now, Socrates wasn't the first philosopher. In fact, Thales was the first philosopher. But if you read about Socrates, you will find that he probably was one of the first philosophers that really delved into what they would call truth through negative question asking. Socrates, who was born around 469 BC, he in fact wrote quite a few articles. He in fact taught a lot of information, but his student, who was Plato, wrote quite a few articles about Socrates. Now, Socrates, in fact, wrote nothing. But his student, Plato, his prize student, wrote all of this information about Socrates, and he actually had Socrates as the main character in a number of his books. Now, Socrates had one of his sayings, which was "Know thyself." And those of you who had an opportunity to visit the House of the Temple in D.C. will note that outside is the Tyler's chair, and I have a picture of it here at the bottom. The Tyler's chair, you will find it in that particular chair, "Know thyself." That is, to thine own self be true. The only way that we can become better at anything is to be honest with ourselves. And that is to try to grow as a person by information that we learn and through experience. But one of my favorite sayings from Socrates was, "I can't teach anybody anything. I can only make them think." So in this particular episode, I'm not trying to teach anybody who's listening anything at all. I just want you to begin to delve into some of the things that I'm talking about and begin to think a little bit about it. Because there's some very important information that I'm going to cover, and I'm going to try to cover a few esoteric things that I'd like for you to consider, and then I'll get into the book a little bit less. But just remember, at least in my eyesight, I'm not trying to teach anybody anything. I just want you to simply think about the subjects that I'm going to talk about just for a second. Masons, as well as the Order of the Eastern Star, should always value freedom of thought. That is, they should always be free thinkers, not necessarily always accepting just how things happen or what has happened, but more importantly, they should try to delve into why things happen. It's not necessarily about the what, but it's really about the why. And I want to bring forth two individuals who have different schools of thought, but more importantly, their thoughts rest around free thought and free thinking. Now, those of you who have probably read about the first gentleman, his name was Voltaire. And Voltaire was actually a playwright. Voltaire was a man who wrote information about religious tolerance. He wrote about freedom of thought. And Voltaire was thrown into jail because of a lot of the things that he thought about and a lot of things that he wrote. And he was one who said that freedom of thought is very important. Religious tolerance is very important. But there again, because of the way he thought, he was thrown into jail. Whereas the gentleman at the bottom, who is Joseph Stalin. Now, Joseph Stalin served as the premier for the Soviet Union from 1922 to about 1953. And he had a completely different way of thinking. Joseph Stalin said that, why would I allow a person to have freedom of thought? If I don't allow guns in the Soviet Union, certainly I will never allow free ideas. And one might ask, well, what is the importance about free ideas? Why should someone have freedom of thought? What is the real importance about that? Well, those of you who've had a chance to read the book, Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson, which was written around 1933, I believe it was, will note that Carter G. Woodson talks about freedom of thought. And he says in his book that if you want to control a person, if you want to control entire continents, all you have to do is to control how they think. And he goes so far to say as if you had a man who was used to slavery and he was in turn used to walking in the back door, if you freed that same man who was used to slavery and walking in the back door, and he could now walk through the front door, he would go so far as to cut a back door so he could walk into it. And so I say that to say this: in order for Masons and members of the Order of the Eastern Star to be metaphysically enlightened, they have to be willing to accept free thinking. They have to be willing to accept truth no matter where it may come from. And that to me is an important part of understanding what I'm going to get into now. Because one of the things that Lux E Tenebris does is it encourages freedom of thought. It encourages also documenting the research that you've done through freedom of thought. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that as we move forward. Now, before we get into that, I also have to give you a disclaimer. There is a condition, whether you've heard of it or not, called Scoptoma. And Scoptoma says that the eyes will only see what the mind is prepared to believe. So if you have in your mind made up that you're going to only believe what you see in one ethnicity, or will only believe in what you see in one book, then you've already closed out the truth that may be found in other books. Free thinkers always are open to receiving information as long as it's true from wherever it may come from. And so I want to urge you to keep in mind that in order to be a free thinker, you've always got to keep in mind this condition, Scoptoma. Because if you don't keep that in mind, then you will only see what your mind is prepared to believe. And so if you're not a free thinker, you're going to be boxed in always, and you'll never really understand or never really appreciate truth from other areas. Okay, so keep that in mind as we move forward. Now, those of you who are historians will remember that not too long ago, let's say around 1948, Israel became a free state. And when Israel became a free state, Israel adopted this flag that we see here. Now, I'm going through this a little bit because I want you to see how I would start to do research for Lux E Tenebris, and then what perhaps I might write down a little bit later and be able to share with those who are willing to read what I consider to be truth. Okay. This flag, the Israeli flag, is blue and white. The reason why it's blue and white is because those who are Jewish have what we call a prayer shawl, and that prayer shawl is called the talit. Okay, the prayer shawl itself is blue and white. Thus, you see the colors of the flag here being blue and white. But in addition to that, brothers and sisters, you will also see in the middle of this flag what we call the Star of David, or King Solomon's seal. Most of you have seen this, and some of you may even worn this seal because it's very important in Masonry. But there again, I say to you, it's not necessarily about the what, but the why. Why is this symbol so important to Masonry? More importantly, why is this symbol seen in the middle of this flag? Now, the Israelis may have adopted this symbol for some other reason, but I want to go through with you why it's important in Masonry. And that, in turn, may be a subject that I might write about in Lux E Tenebris. Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. Have you ever thought about why Masons revere opposites? Those of you who've been Masons for a while will know that you've seen opposites all around you. You see opposites in degree work. You see opposites in Boaz and Joshin. You see opposites in the sun and the moon. You see opposites even in male and female, which are sometimes located inside of us. We have what we call duality within us, male and female. And so Masons always revere opposites. And one thing that we can say about opposites is there are a number of different examples that I could give you. Okay, I can give you hot and cold, sour and sweet, smooth and rough, male and female. All of those are opposites. But here, I want to give you probably what we would consider to be the most profound opposites. And that is the material opposites of fire, water, air, and earth. If you look at the symbolism here, now symbols are very important in Masonry, and those of us who are Masons will recognize this. On the left-hand side, the symbol for fire is an equilateral triangle that you can see here on the left-hand side, and it's pointing upward. It's considered to be a masculine symbol or a male symbol. And those of you who've been in the military will denote that generally those individuals who have that triangle, the more of them that they have, the higher they are in rank. So the fire symbol is what would be considered a masculine symbol. There again, duality opposites. On the other side, you will find the opposite of fire, the symbol for water. You will note that it is an equilateral triangle pointing downward. The symbol for water there again is a feminine symbol. And you can even see that this symbol really resembles the womb of a woman. Okay. Again, you see the opposites there. Air, also a symbol that's pointing upward, considered to be a masculine symbol, but it has a line moving through it. Earth, a feminine symbol, which has a line going through it. But what's most important about this is, I talked a little bit about duality a minute ago. Duality is all around us, whether we want to recognize it or not. Even in males and females, there is duality. Within a male, there are female hormones, and within women, there are male hormones. For example, if you take a look at sex hormones, there are 3 general sex hormones that we all make. There's testosterone, which is predominantly a male hormone. There is progesterone, which is predominantly a female hormone. And there's also estrogen, which is predominantly a female hormone. But if you look at males, males make predominantly testosterone, but they also make smaller amounts of progesterone and estrogen. Okay. Testosterone is what allows males to grow hair on their face. It's what allows the prostate to grow to be a certain size. It's what allows men's muscles to grow larger than women. But you also have to ask yourself, well, why are you bringing up estrogen and progesterone? Well, think about it. Women, one of the things that can happen with a woman, God forbid, would be breast cancer. But men, whether you know it or not, brothers and sisters, can also get breast cancer. And breast cancer a lot of times feeds on estrogen, which tells you that males make estrogen just like females. But what's most important here is these hormones, just like fire, air, water, and earth, come into harmony. They harmonize. All right. And there is a part within the Masonic Lodge where the senior warden always says, harmony, the strength of all institutions, most especially this of ours. Now, if you believe that to be true, harmony, the strength of all institutions, not just Masonry, but all institutions. All right. If you believe that to be true, then the next slide that I'm going to show you will make sense. Remember here, these are opposites. Fire is an equilateral triangle pointing up. Water, equilateral triangle pointing down. Air, equilateral triangle pointing up with a line through it. Earth, equilateral triangle pointing down with a line through it. But if you bring those 4 material symbols into harmony, what will happen will be the Star of David or King Solomon's seal. This is what we mean by esoteric knowledge. Esoteric itself means knowledge that's only known to a few. So even though most of us have celebrated King Solomon's seal, or we've celebrated the Star of David, very few people know why we celebrate that. And that is because it represents the harmony of these 4 opposites. That is fire, air, water, and earth. And when you look at those symbols, when they are in harmony, they form King Solomon's seal. These are the kinds of things that I talk about when we say that we want to write things in Lux E Tenebris and we want to share this for those who are coming behind us. This is the kind of information that we talk about. Now, I don't want to mislead you, because it's not all going to be esoteric. There are going to be some historic articles, all right? Like Brother Morgan has written an article before that's been historic. Generally, when I write about information, I write about things that are esoteric because that's what interests me. But as long as it is truth and it is documented appropriately, Lux E Tenebris is the place to publish it. So here's a great example of something that very few people might know, but we want to publish in Lux E Tenebris. Okay, and I'd like to give you another example. All right. Richard Casaro is considered to be a great symbologist. At least I like a lot of the things that I've had an opportunity to read by him. He has a book called Written in Stone. And if you have a chance to look it up, it really is a good book. And what he discovered in his book was that there are a lot of cultures who have interests to their buildings which are similar. And he asked himself, how is it that all of these cultures, some of which never had a chance to go through collusion, how did they all have the same entrances? Okay, and you'll look at this very first entrance in the middle here. It's called the Triptych, and I believe that he actually gave it the name. The Triptych represents an entrance to a building. On the left-hand side is considered to be the female port of the building, or it represents female characteristics. The right-hand side represents male characteristics. And the middle of the building, as you can see, just a little bit larger than the left and right, represents harmony of the male and female sides, just like I talked about a minute ago in terms of the hormones. Remember, harmony is the strength of all institutions, most especially this of ours. Here's a piece of esoteric information that very few people have had a chance to look at. That is, here is esoteric knowledge that's been embedded within architectural marvels that we just think that our interest is the building, when in fact, for those who are willing to accept ultimate truth through freedom of thought, it may mean that we need to really cherish harmony. That is, the combination of male and female counterparts to come into one harmonized soul. And that is how we actually have metaphysical enlightenment. The more we are able to know thyself, the more we're able to come into harmony with ourselves, the better off we are in terms of metaphysical enlightenment and spiritual enlightenment. So he took a look at several buildings, all right, and you can see that these buildings are all over. He looked at the Mayan culture that you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, and in this particular picture, you can see there are three buildings. The one in the middle is a little bit larger than the ones on the left and right. All right, the one on the right represents male, the one on the left represents female. And it may also be the main reason why when Masons and Eastern Stars attend ceremonies, the males march in on the right and the ladies march in on the left. There again, you can see coming into harmony. At the bottom right-hand corner is a Greek society. You can see the entrance to buildings for the Greeks. On the right-hand side, there's a building, there's an entrance. On the left-hand side, there's an entrance. And even in the middle, there's an entrance, okay? And so what he's been able to say in this book is that the triptych represents not just an interest to buildings, but for those who are free thinkers, for those who are willing to accept ultimate truth, for those who don't have Scoptoma, you will notice that these buildings are really a way to communicate information to those who are looking for it, to say, bring yourself to harmony. Harmony is important. We say it all the time, harmony, the strength of all institutions, but it's all around us, even in these buildings. And you may say, well, Brother Honeywell, that's old architecture. That really has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. That's architecture in the past. But what if I was to tell you that it's not architecture in the past? Here you see the triptych in modern architecture. At the top left-hand corner, you'll find the Virginia State Capitol. Again, you see three entrances there. On the right-hand side represents male. The left-hand side represents female. The middle one's a little bit larger, so it represents the harmony of both sides, the yin and the yang. The one on the right-hand side at the top is the Skull and Bones building. There again, you'll see entrance on the right-hand side representing male, and entrance on the left-hand side representing female, and the entrance in the middle representing harmony. At the bottom left, you'll find Buckingham Palace in England. Okay, there again, you see three entrances. Okay, one in the middle is a little bit larger, and the one on the right-hand side at the bottom is the Taj Mahal. Okay, there again, you see three entrances. So there again, I keep saying to you, harmony, the strength of all institutions, not most especially this of ours. So this is not necessarily about the what, but why. Why are there three buildings here? Why are there three entrances? And what exactly does that mean? This is the kind of information that we're looking for in Lux E Tenebris. Okay? We want to make sure that we're able to decipher this information, put it down on paper, and allow you to make your own decision. Again, remember, I'm not trying to teach anybody anything. I'm only hoping that you will think about what I'm presenting to you. Okay? The triptych, harmony, the strength of all institutions, most especially this of ours. Now, here's a picture that most of you've probably seen throughout your entire life. This is a picture painted by Leonardo da Vinci, and Leonardo da Vinci was born in the 1400s. Now, he was not just a painter. Leonardo da Vinci was a mathematician, a sculptor. He did a lot, but he was well known for his paintings. Three of the paintings you'll probably recognize will be the Mona Lisa, which I don't have here, the Vitruvian Man, all right, and also this one, which is called The Last Supper. Now, remember what I told you. It's not about the what, but it's about the why. Da Vinci could have painted this picture any way he wanted to. This is the Last Supper. And the Last Supper depicts when Jesus told his 12 disciples that one of them would be a traitor to him. And all of them are basically discussing what he's saying. Now, all of the ways that Da Vinci could have painted this picture, why did he paint it this way? So let's go through it for a minute, okay? And this is, again, what we're talking about for Lux E Tenebris. Light from darkness, esoteric, information that very few people know. So take a look at this. He painted the 12 disciples in 4 groups, starting from the left-hand side. There are groups of 3, one on the left, one on the right, one in the middle, one representing male, one representing female, one representing harmony. You also see the next group of disciples, same thing. 3, one on the right, one on the left, one in the middle. On the other side of Jesus, you'll see the 3, and to the far right, you'll see the 3. There again, Masons revere the number 3, not necessarily for the reason that you may think, but also because it represents harmony. Even when you look at this picture of Jesus, you will note that there are 2 sets of disciples on either side of Jesus, right? There's 2 sets on the left representing female, 2 sets on the right representing male, and Jesus in the middle representing harmony. That is metaphysical enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment. But what most people have probably never paid attention to is this. In the back of the picture, you will denote 3 windows. Now, of all the things that Da Vinci could have painted, why did he choose 3 windows? Okay, one on the left, one on the right, and one in the middle. And not just one in the middle, but the one in the middle is a little bit larger than the one on the left and the one on the right, just like the triptych. And Casaro talks a lot about this in his book, Written in Stone. And so here again, this is the kind of information that we're talking about, writing about in Lux E Tenebris, researching, presenting. But again, you have to have freedom of thought and be willing to accept truth, even though it may not be in the realm that you are accustomed to. Here again, we've looked at this picture a million times, but never paid attention to the symmetry. He painted the disciples in groups of 3. He painted groups of disciples on both sides of Jesus. He had 2 groups on one side, 2 groups on the other side, symmetry there. And he painted 3 windows. He could have had 12 windows, one for each disciple. He could have had no windows. But why those 3 windows and why that size? There again, I'm not trying to teach anybody anything. I only want you to think about it. So here again, cathedrals built by operative Masons. Most of us will recognize that the circle represents those things that are spiritual. And you might say, well, Brother Honeywell, why is that? But in the Bible, those of you who are biblical scholars will denote that the Bible says, I am the Alpha, I am the Omega. I am the first, the last, I am the beginning and the end. There is no such structure which has a beginning and an end except a circle. Okay, so the circle therefore makes sense to be something that represents God or something that represents spirituality. Now, if you think about it, think about all of the structures which are circular. The sun is circular. The moon is circular. Our heads, which control our bodies, is circular. Even that symbol, which represents man's marriage to God or man's marriage to his wife, is circular. When you put on a ring, it is circular. So therefore, the circle is one of those things that esoterically is related to God. But even beneath the circle, you will find those three images, those three entrances. One on the left represents male, one on the right represents female, and the one in the middle, which is a slightly larger, just a little bit larger, representing harmony. Again, harmony, the strength of all institutions, most especially this of ours. Here again, we're talking about esoteric knowledge. We probably passed this a million times and never really thought about what this may mean and why is it like that. Okay, why that particular structure is made that way. And so that again is very important for us to not consider just the what, but more importantly to consider the why. Why is it that way? And that is what we want to put in Lux E Tenebris. Okay. So once I finished that, I would have published it. But there are a few things that I want to tell you about Lux E Tenebris very quickly. The Phylaxis Society, according to the Constitution, has three groups of members. Okay, there are actual fellows, which will have the designation FPS, of which there can only be 15. There are honorary fellows, which will have the designation FPSH. And then there are also members of the Phylaxis Society, which will have MPS behind their name. Now, the reason why there can only be 15 actual fellows is because of the 15 individuals that started Prince Hall Masonry. So once the 15 fellows are chosen, actual fellows, there can't be any more actual fellows until one of those 15 either resigns or dies. And the last actual fellow that was selected this year. Our brother A. Tahuti Evans from Washington, D.C. became the last actual fellow, the last of the 15. Now, they can have as many
Brother Honeywell, what did you say he was from?
D.C.
Oh, okay.
Washington, D.C.
I couldn't hear you. My headphones. Please continue. I'm sorry.
So, brother A. Tahuti Evans is the last of the actual fellows. All right. In Lux E Tenebris, we'll have the 15 actual fellows. You will have a few honorary fellows, and then you have some select members within there. The bylaws stipulate that if you're going to be in Lux E Tenebris, you must publish an article once every 2 years. Okay, once every 2 years, and those articles are published in a book called The Transactions. You have to do research on a specific subject. So for me, I did research on my father's lodge, which we'll get into a little bit later. But the purpose of Lux E Tenebris is really to foster scholarly research and to publish that data in a book called The Transactions. And hopefully that book in turn will help those who come behind us. The active fellows will then vote on the best article out of the transactions, and that individual will receive the Joseph A. Walks Award at annual session. Okay, and that's a minute award that generally is worn around the neck of the winner. Okay, so Lux E Tenebris, which means light from darkness, that chapter is dedicated to scholarly research and publishing those transactions so that others can read it. Okay, and I know we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Now, I don't want to go too much into it because I know there'll be questions. The last transactions were the 2017 transactions, and I have what it looks like right here. There were 8 authors included in here, one of which you will see, the Honorable James Morgan III, who wrote an article, a fantastic article in there. And then you also see a number of other individuals who are as well. But this book is on Amazon. It is on Kindle. It is available right now. And this book represents research from these individuals. You will note here that 6 of the 8 are actual fellows, because that's one of the things that you've got to do, one article every 2 years. And 2 of the individuals are members of the Phylaxis Society, but they're select members because they have either written something or they've shown how prolific they are in terms of their research or writing. And so they've been selected to be a part of Lux E Tenebris, and we're certainly proud of them. Okay. Here is the Phylaxis Society website, and you can see here the article that I wrote called Laboring in the Midnight Hour, and it's found in that book. an article that I published on about my father's lodge, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But you can see a copy of this article as well, and it's there. Okay. And the last thing I want to leave you with is this story. There's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Osiefield Anderson, who is a prolific mathematician here from Florida A&M University. He recently lost his wife a month ago or so. And I was sitting at his table one day, and we were talking about making the choice to be free thinkers, making the choice to make a difference in the world. And he said, Honeywell, I want you to consider this story. And I'm going to tell the story to you. He said that there was an eagle that was born. And when the eagle was born, he flew amongst the eagles, but eventually he went down to grab a bite to eat, and he began to fellowship with some ducks. When he fellowshiped with the ducks, he really enjoyed their company. He spent more time with the ducks than he did with the eagles. And so by spending time with the ducks, he began to learn how they communicated. He learned how they walked. He learned how they ate. And the next thing that you knew, the eagle was actually waddling like a duck. And so someone came by and asked the eagle, well, why are you waddling amongst the ducks? Your feathers look different. Why don't you fly away with the eagles? And he said, well, you know, I stopped flying, and now I don't know. I can't remember how to fly. I've been sitting here amongst the ducks so long, I don't remember. And this eagle, who had so much potential, lived and died as a duck. And what he was saying to me is that if you know that there's so much out there that you can write, so much that you can research, so much that you can publish, remember what you are put here to do. All right? Honor what you are put here to do. Do the research, write it down so that others can come behind you and read it, and conduct yourself as an eagle. Because otherwise, your talents are going to waste, and you as a young man don't want to live and die as a duck. So I'm saying to you, brothers and sisters, if you will consider this, we have so much that we can offer to one another, and we have so much to offer to others who are coming behind us. We ought to live our lives as eagles, and that is do our research, better ourselves, come into harmony with ourselves. And the only person who knows what really needs to be fixed within yourself is you. You know thyself, till thine own self be true. And that's the only way that you can fly amongst the eagles. You've got to figure out a way to harmonize with yourself. And those of you who've studied the tree of life will also find that the tree of life is really about harmony, learning to bring yourself to harmony. So brothers and sisters, with that being said, I don't want to take all the time here, but I do want you to see the kind of information that we would publish in Lux E Tenebris and how we would go about doing that. Okay. And I do thank you for your time.
Woo! Brother Honeywell. Bravo. Bravo. I think that I speak for not only myself, but the viewers. We're getting a whole bunch of messages here on our chat and everything else. Everybody's jaw has dropped to the floor. I thank you for that. I think that was excellent. And let me say before I continue, I thank you for mentioning the fact that I did also contribute to these transactions. But I don't think people realize, take the Masonic stuff away. I don't think people realize what it takes to actually put a book together. And Brother Honeywell, you did an amazing job of leading Lux E Tenebris Chapter this past year and getting this book done and getting it out in a timely manner. As you always tell us in our meetings, you want things done. How do we do things?
Decent and in order.
Decency and in order. So thank you for that. And I know our viewers are in the chat. They are going ballistic. We did get a question in for you. Let me see here from Brother Eric Harrell. Brother Harrell says, he says, please ask the Honorable Brother Honeywell about how an interested person might be able to get involved with Lux E Tenebris, whom to contact, how to submit paper, and what are the specific qualifications.
All right, Brother Harrell, good afternoon, and certainly thank you for coming on, Brother Harrell. The first thing that you have to do to be a member of Lux E Tenebris is to join the Phylaxis Society. If you go on the Phylaxis Society's website, it is www.thephylaxissociety.com. there is a section on there for membership. Membership is $35. You submit your paperwork to Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is where the Grand Secretary resides. They will then send you back your paperwork to say that you are a member, and then you can contact me to say that you want to join Lux E Tenebris. I will then contact the membership. They will vote on your application, and at that point, you can be a member of Lux E Tenebris if the vote comes out positively. So that's kind of how you would join Lux E Tenebris. But you also will probably need to submit something that you've done research on, or something that you've published, or some presentation that you've done, so that they can consider what kind of scholarly work you've done in the past.
Very good. Thank you. Brother Dave?
Man, I'm still over here like blown away. I'm just glad to say that's my classmate.
Hey, well, I appreciate you all having me on here. I love it, and I love this.
I guess for the next phase of this, we're going to go into the article that you mentioned earlier, Laboring in the Midnight Hour. I know for me, as I was reading through it, and amazing work. There's a couple of things that stuck out to me was how you mentioned about the lodge meeting at midnight. And it brought me back to an earlier conversation with my good friend, Assistant District Deputy Grand Master, Reggie Walker, who's a member of Mansfield Lodge 295 in Mansfield, Georgia. And he mentioned how his lodge used to meet at midnight. A little bit different reasons, because they had a high activity of the Klan in the area, and they wanted to meet at a time where the Klan wouldn't probably catch them. Okay. And then you start talking about the sun. And I started thinking about a previous show. We talked about the importance of the sun in the lodge, and I don't think a lot of brothers understand how important the sun is to the lodge. So, if you could for a few minutes, or take as much time as you need to kind of go to explain that article, what was your passion behind writing it?
Okay, all right. Let me go back. The worshipful master that presided before me was named Theodus Baker, and he was the worshipful master who had appointed me as senior deacon. JRE Lodge has always prided itself in being proficient when it comes to degree work, and that is without the book, you know. And so, as a senior deacon, it was expected of me to walk all parts of degree work, especially the middle chamber, without the book. And so my dad at the time was 80 years old. And I told him for the first time I was going to walk the middle chamber without the book. I drove home to go get him because I wanted him to see me walk that middle chamber without the book. And so I went to go get him. He came to lodge meeting. He had an old card. It was kind of torn or what have you. And he brought his card with him. I said, Dad, they know that you're amazing. He said, well, I'm bringing my card because that's what you're supposed to do. So he brought his card. And when we left the degree work, he said to me, he said, you know, son, Masons do things so differently now. When I was coming up in the 60s and 70s, we didn't open the lodge for degree work until midnight.
Brother Honeywell.
Yes, sir.
But Honeywell, I'm sorry, you were breaking up, at least on my end, audio.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the case for anybody else, but can you repeat, just for clarity, can you repeat what you just said?
Absolutely. So as I was saying before, I went to go get my father, and he went to the lodge meeting with me when I began to walk the middle chamber for the first time. And he had just turned 80 years old. As a matter of fact, it was in April of probably like 4 years ago. I think it was 13 or 14 or what have you. But when I walked that middle chamber, after we left, he said to me, you know, Masons do things so differently now. He said, when I joined in the 60s, we opened the lodge at midnight. You couldn't open the lodge before midnight to do degree work because that was the standard. And now it appears that you guys open the lodge at any other time. So I said, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to research that information, and I'm going to find the reason why they open the lodge at midnight, and I'm going to publish it. And so I began to do research. And those of you who've studied Masonry will know that when you conduct degree work and you go around that lodge, it represents time. It represents actually a day in the journey of a person's life. For example, the worshipful master who presides in each represents 6 a.m. The junior warden who presides in the south represents 12 p.m. High meridian. The senior warden who presides in the west represents 6 p.m. and the north is dark, which represents midnight. Okay, so the north represents midnight. So if you think about somebody who has not been exposed to masonry, that really is the darkest part of their life, because the more that they begin to get exposed to truth and masonry, the more enlightened they will become. So the lodge opened at midnight to represent the person who was coming out of darkness, which is midnight in the lodge, into light. So that is why those individuals who once they become first degree candidates are made to sit in the northeast corner, because they're coming out of darkness, which is the north, at 12 a.m., which is midnight, heading towards the east. They're not privileged enough to sit in the east, but they're no longer in the north of darkness because you've enlightened them. So the only place they can sit is the northeast corner. So esoterically, that's what I wrote that article about. Why they open the lodge at midnight. And that's because it represents a time in the candidate's life when they are moving from darkness to light.
Man, that is powerful. That is powerful. And you know, and I'm gonna tell you, you touched on a few things that that really resonated with me. And one thing that I really like and enjoy researching is various Masonic practices, particularly ones that aren't as popular today, or ones that, you know, maybe have fallen even out of use completely. Even to researching defunct Masonic bodies. And I think that is something, the whole laboring the midnight hour concept, I think is something that is lost on a lot of people. And I know, I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I had ever heard of it. I may have, but I don't know that I had ever heard of it before you enlightened me on that subject. So for that, you have my thanks. We did get something else in here, another question for you coming from the chat. Let me see, who was this? Brother Mike Tyler, I believe he's a brother. I can't see the face, but I think he's a brother. It says here, does the scholarly work submit? I guess in reference to being submitted for Lux E Tenebris, he says, does the scholarly work have to be within reference to masonry in order to be considered for Lux E Tenebris?
No, the scholarly work does not have to be in reference to masonry. We prefer it to be in reference to masonry, but it does not have to be in reference to masonry. It can be any scholarly work that represents truth and that is well documented. And that is that we can go back and find that information, and we can check to make sure all the references are correct and everything is right. But it does not have to be something specific to masonry, though we do prefer it to be something that is Masonic, if at all possible.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we I wanted to highlight some of the other topics that were covered in the 2017 transactions here. I see here we have Undoing the Influence of Grimshaw, which was written by the Honorable John B. Williams, who was the immediate, or not, he's not immediate past president.
He's not immediate.
He's not the immediate past president, but he's a past president.
Right. He was past president 2 presidents ago.
Yeah, 2 presidents ago for the Phylaxis Society. Then we have number 2 was Prince Hall Freemasons, Agents of Agitation and Abolition, written by yours truly. We have The Greatest Prince Hall Mason of the 19th Century, John T. Hilton, written by Alton Roundtree. The World's Columbian Exposition, Cradle of Prince Hall Shrindom, by Dr. Bob Uzel out of Texas, which to me, you know, that's one of my, I'm not gonna lie to you, that's one of my favorite pieces of Masonic education. If you haven't, get the book, get it, just get it. Next here we have Hermes Trismegistus in the Legends of Freemasonry, written by Brother Tahuti Evans, who was the winner of the award that we talked about earlier, DC. Laboring in the Midnight Hour, of course. We have Straight is Straight and Crooked is Crooked, written by who? I'm sorry, I only got 2 left, and I'm mixing.
Daryl Andrews, Brother Daryl Andrews.
Thank you, Brother Andrews. Thank you. And then last but not least, the similarities between Osiris, Hiram, and Jesus, which was written by Brother Asker. Brother Asker. Yeah, I was mixing them up in my head. So very good. So brothers and sisters, please support this book, support this project. This is definitely one that you want to have on your shelf. And as you see, my only reason why mine is on the shelf right now is because it's on my desk, because I've been reading it, going through it. This is an amazing piece of Masonic education. Please support that.
And if the readers want to get a glimpse at how some of those articles look, If they're willing to, they can go read the article that I wrote. Actually, I have 2 articles on the Lux E Tenebris site for Phylaxis Society. If you go to thephylaxissociety.com and look under major projects, and then under major projects, you'll see Lux E Tenebris and then Lux manuscripts. You'll see 2 articles that I've had a chance to write. One was Labored in the Midnight Hour, and the other one was called Harmony to the Strength of All Institutions. And you'll see within those articles the kinds of manuscripts that we are asking brothers and sisters to write to go into this.
Very good.
All right, we just got a question in from brother KJ out of the great state of Georgia. And he asked about the origins of the Lux E Tenebris chapter. If you could explain how it started, what was the concept?
All right. Joseph A. Walks, who is actually the founder of the Phylaxis Society, wanted to entice or encourage brothers to write articles, and he developed this chapter called Lux E Tenebris. And at that particular time, he was taking everything on himself. I mean, he was doing all the publishing and all those kind of, actually paying for the publishing out of pocket at one point in time. And so, but he was doing that because he wanted brothers to capture their own history. And that is, who can better write our own history but us? But we've got to have brothers who are willing to sit down and do it. And that's kind of how Lux E Tenebris started, from past the very first president of the Phylaxis Society, Joseph A. Walks. And that's why the medallion is named after him, the Joseph A. Walks medallion.
If I can add something in on that, as somebody who has been involved with Lux E Tenebris and putting this the most recent set of transactions out, one thing that I enjoyed, I'm sorry, let me switch it so y'all can see me. One thing that I enjoyed the most about it is the idea of being able to do some deep thinking as well as writing and publishing around Masonic topics. I think that, and maybe I'm wrong, but has anyone out there ever had a discussion where you're really getting into the nooks and crannies of what the craft is really about, or really been going in the direction of, breaking down some brick walls in your mind, whether it's regarding history, the more metaphysical sciences, or what have you, and then all of a sudden, oh guys, we got to go home, or that really doesn't exist in Lux E Tenebris. We really try to dive into those subjects and turn those corners and unlock those doors, and that's something that I personally have been very appreciative of the chapter in the Phylaxis Society as a whole for offering that venue, because sometimes people who are dealing with topics like the metaphysical symbols, which Brother Honeywell highlighted, and showing the different connections and breaking it down and building it back up for everybody. Sometimes you don't get that venue, even in your own lodge hall or in your own state of communication or what have you. And I think that that's something that is very, very important to Masonic education as a whole, is taking it to that next level, as Brother Honeywell just showed us tonight. So as someone who's participated, I think it's great. I really do. So it's exactly the kind of thing that I'm into. Brother Dave, did you have any questions for Brother Honeywell?
I think the question I have, Honor Honeywell, is what inspires you the most about being the director of this chapter, and what direction would you like to see it go in?
Pretty good question. I think that what inspires me the most is probably personal growth. I think that the more I research, the more I learn. And the more that I learn, the more applicable it becomes for me. And I think that I have grown in such a way that I may not be where I need to be, but I think that I've grown in such a way that I'm not where I used to be. And that to me is really what Masonry is about. Try to make good men better. Where I'd like to see it go is I like for more individuals to become interested in it. I'm so thankful to the Phylaxis Society for giving us a venue to be able to express our writings, our ideas, to publish those things so that we have some way to record history as we see it. and as we have researched it. And I think that that's very important. And I'm just hoping that we'll have more brothers and who will join the Phylaxis Society, more brothers who will write, more brothers who will learn and certainly become better men so that we can pass that on to others. And I'll just say this very quickly. One of the reasons why I began to write that article, in addition to the story that my dad, was I was trying to find some information about my father's lodge. And it was very hard for me to find that information because the worshipful master of that time kept all the information in his house. So when that worshipful master died, all of the information from the lodge was lost. So my father can't even tell you who built that lodge before he passed, of course, who built that lodge. And I kept asking him and nobody could find it. So I keep saying that we need to record this information, but it needs to be in a venue that it can be kept so that we can share it amongst others. And even when we're dead and gone, that somebody can go back and say, you know, we've never met at midnight, but I read an article where perhaps in the 50s and 60s they met at midnight. So let's do something on that. You know, you just never know how it may benefit somebody.
All right, thank you.
Brother Honeywell, can you talk, because you and I kind of know, but for those who don't, can you talk a little bit about the article or the paper review process that papers, before they have been published, the process that they go through to getting into the actual transaction?
That's a very good question. When a paper is submitted to Lux E Tenebris, what generally happens is all of the members who are part of Lux E Tenebris get to read it and to make comments and suggestions. All comments and suggestions must be addressed by the person who wrote the article. So, for example, if you look at Labor in the Midnight Hour, if there are 15 members of Lux E Tenebris, all 15 can either make suggestions, make comments, challenge thoughts, whatever it may be, and you have to address all of those comments, which is intended to make the article better. All right, because there may be something that you may have missed. There may be some grammatical changes that may have to be instituted, or there may be some references that may need to be added. And in the end, it is done so that, one, you become a better writer, and two, your article becomes a better manuscript. And so it cannot be published until it goes through that process. And once it goes through that process and everybody's okay with it and the articles are approved, then it's placed in the book. But it cannot be placed in the book until it goes through that review process by the fellows and members of the Lux E Tenebris chapter.
Thank you. And now we're starting to get a little bit more questions in. This is from good friend and brother Tyrone Jackson out of Prince Hall, Grand Lodge, Illinois.
Oh, Brother Jackson.
What can be done to interest more brothers to research and publish it?
I think that I think what probably, at least in my experience, what has scared brothers about it is they don't know the process, and it appears like it's just something they can't achieve. When in fact, it's not hard once you know the process, and you've got to try it in order to get better at it. The very first time you write an article, yes, you're going to be a lot of changes. Yes, it may not be your best, but it will get better and better with time. So what I like to do is encourage brothers to join the Phylaxis Society, try to write an article, get somebody who is a well-published writer, or perhaps somebody who's published before, to review your article. Now, when they do it, you can't wear your feelings on your shoulders, because there are going to be some changes and there are going to be some suggestions. But when you do it, you will find out how they would have changed it, and hopefully you'll build from that to become a better writer. And the only way you can become a better writer is you got to do it. As my uncle used to say when I was a little boy, whenever you think of something that looks like it's too big for you to do, just think of it as it's just something to do. And that's always the way I think of things that looks like it's bigger than life. If writing is something that you feel like you're not good at, just think of it as just something to do, and do it. And that's all you got to do. Try it and continue to get better.
There you go. Hey, brothers, I'm going to go off script for a quick second because I'd like to show you all something that stuck out to me from this evening's discussion. Can y'all indulge me for about 10 seconds? Because I love our Prince Hall Think Tank fans so much. Brothers, I just got this picture from Brother Michael Williams. Can y'all see that?
Yeah, you don't see it.
Brother Williams got his feet kicked up watching the Prince Hall think tank. Happened to have me on the TV screen there. And just for that, Brother Michael Williams, I'm gonna purchase a copy of the Lux E Tenebris Chapter 2017 transactions just for you. Inbox me your home address, and I'm going to send that out to you because that really made me laugh.
And Brother Williams actually has a good book that he just wrote, and I have a copy of it over here. He has a phenomenal book too, so you might want to look into his book as well, because I think it's called The Science of Light. And I've started reading it. I helped him actually to get it together in terms of the editing piece. He wrote the entire thing, but I've started reading through the finalized version, and it's really pretty good. So those of you who had a chance to take a look at it, he has a book called The Science of Light.
All right, we got another question from Brother
Bring
Green.
them on, brother. I love questions.
Brother Green's from the state of Alabama. He asks, can the Phylaxis Society and the Lux E Tenebris Chapter charter local chapters?
The Phylaxis Society, now, Lux E Tenebris Chapter, they won't charter Lux E Tenebris Chapter. There will probably only be one chapter unless the Phylaxis Society votes to do something different. But the Phylaxis Society can charter chapters in your local cities. And all you have to do, as I said before, is to get in contact with the Phylaxis Society secretary, let them know that you are interested in starting a Phylaxis Society chapter in your city. I think there's a minimum number of members that you have to have. But once you get that taken care of, you all can start and meet. And then your entire chapter can come for the annual session every year and fellowship with us. So they may not charter a Lux E Tenebris chapter, but you can have a chapter of the Phylaxis Society in your local city. They do that.
Yeah, and if I may, I'm a member of the Charles Sharp chapter here in DC for the Phylaxis Society. Lux E Tenebris is a specialized chapter. It kind of markets itself as being the creme de la creme of Masonic writers of a given time period. So if you go back, and mind you, the 2017 transactions are not the first transactions. This has been going on going back to the Phylaxis Society's beginnings back in the early 70s. So it's definitely important work. I see we got another question here from Greg Harrington, who by his question, I'm assuming he's not a Prince Hall Mason. He says, how can a non-Phylaxis brother gain this information? So I'm assuming he's talking about joining Lux E Tenebris. I'm assuming, Mr. Harrington, if I'm misrepresenting your question, please feel free to correct it. But that's what I'm assuming he means.
Now, the Phylaxis Society is, and I'm thank you for that question. It's a phenomenal question. The Phylaxis Society is for Masons, but it's not necessarily just for Prince Hall Masons. So I do want to say that they've allowed other Masons to join, but what they want is they want for you all to come in and to join, because they are dispersing light wherever it may be. And so if you are interested in joining the Phylaxis Society, if you want to know the rules and regulations in terms of joining, then again, that website, thephylaxissociety.com, it'll tell you about membership on there. I know that the home office is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you can ask them if you can join. But there again, they want membership to come in. They are predominantly Prince Hall. So I do want to give you that caveat. They're predominantly Prince Hall, but they are interested in gaining membership for those who want to research information and who want to be a part of an organization that's really about collecting information and spreading the correct information or knowledge to the world, really. And it's just a phenomenal organization. I'm really thankful for the Phylaxis Society.
Okay. Next question. Has there ever been a meeting of the minds between Lux E Tenebris and the Phylaxis Society, to your knowledge?
That's a great question. In fact, there has been. those of you who've probably not had an opportunity to read this, but there's an article on there called the American Masonic Education Symposium, and it was held on June 25th through June 27th, 2015 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And Iowa is actually the home of the Iowa Masonic Library in Cedar Rapids. And so they had this symposium where they had the Phylaxis Society and the Phylaxis Society there. And they had presenters from the Phylaxis Society at that symposium, and they had presenters from the Phylaxis Society. And in fact, Tahuti Evans and I both served as presenters for that Masonic symposium, which was held in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So there has been a meeting of the minds between Phylaxis and Phylaxis Society, and I believe that they still actually communicate in terms of how they can work together to do things. But I do remember that specific symposium where both the Phylaxis and Phylaxis were there.
Yeah, and also too, even though I was by myself, some of y'all may remember last year I traveled to California for their California Masonic Education Symposium last year, which highlighted African American Freemasonry. Myself, as well as Honorable Brother John B. Williams, and that was actually the first time he and I had gotten to meet in person. We stayed at the same hotel. It was great. Also a shout out to Worshipful Brother Oscar Allen out of Grand Lodge in New York. And actually, funny enough, the presentation that Brother Williams gave, as well as the presentation that I gave, both evolved into the papers that we submitted for the Lux E Tenebris Chapter proceedings. And I don't even know how well. I know we were pretty far along in the publication process at that point. But that was testing grounds for our presentations, and we both fielded questions not only from the audience but even from each other. So again, like Brother Honeywell said, a meeting of the minds, steel sharpens steel, like men can sharpen men. So. And
you can also look in that that book. You'll find an article from Brother Roundtree. Now, Brother Roundtree has written a number of books. I think the last book that he wrote was actually in combination with Brother Tahuti Evans, which was about the history of the Grand Lodge of D.C. And so,
I'm sorry, where?
Yeah, the history of the Grand Lodge of D.C. So Brother Tahuti Evans and Brother Roundtree wrote that book. It's a phenomenal book. And so you have some really good authors in that Lux E Tenebris, and I'm just honored again to be a part of it. I really am.
Now we have another question coming out here. Brother KJ, I'm not even gonna begin to try to pronounce his first name again. He wants he's trying to clarify, I guess, regarding the membership qualifications. He's asking in so many words, is Lux E Tenebris Chapter open to Prince Hall and mainstream or regular, what we would call regular and recognized Masons, or are other groups such as the International and Modern Free, all these other?
Yeah, no, it would be no, and that's a good question. That's a fair question, Brother KJ. The Lux E Tenebris will be open to Prince Hall Masons to write. So you would have to be recognized as a Prince Hall Mason to write for Lux E Tenebris, and that's a fair question. That's a fair question.
Very good. Brother Dave, Brother Gilliam, you got anything else going on? What deep in thought over there?
Oh no, I don't think I'm trying to scroll all our pages to see if we have any new questions. One item I'm trying to look for as well is our live chat. I don't know if you've been taking questions from the live chat.
Yeah, the questions I got from the live chat. Actually, I do see one question here that we have not addressed. Again, from Brother Michael Williams. He says here, he asks, how do we break through the stigma behind topics of this nature from the presentation tonight? From my experience, sometimes it seems that brothers ask for knowledge on this level, but then when you give it to them, they try to run away.
Well, Brother William, that's a fair question, a good question. I think that, again, as I said before, all of it starts with freedom of thought. And I go back again to that original thought of Scoptoma, that original term, Scoptoma. The eyes can only see what the mind is prepared to believe. If you're not prepared to believe some of the information that is true, now, again, it has to be true. But if you're not prepared to believe some of the information that's true, then you're going to ostracize that. And you're certainly going to just kind of delve into something else that you are prepared to believe. I am hopeful that as Freemasons, that we all will be willing to recognize truth when we see it. But there again, you can't force a person to ingest something that they may not be ready for. That's why Masonry is taught in degrees. All right. You have to be ready for that information. And when you're ready for it, then it will make sense to you. If I try to force it on to you, then it won't do you any good. In fact, it might be more harmful than good. So you've got to be ready for it, and you've got to be willing to accept it as is. And I think once a brother or sister is ready to do that, then sky's the limit.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. I think this has been a great discussion thus far. Brother Honeywell, I think you have definitely left your footprint right here on the Prince Hall Think Tank this evening in a way that few others have. I think that it's very important that we keep that balance in our Masonic studies, because you do get a lot of Prince Hall Masonic history in some of these kind of forms, even on our show, and we try to balance it out with also giving the more esoteric and metaphysical aspects of Freemasonry, which to me really is the core of what Freemasonry is about. Of course, the Prince Hall story and tradition is important history. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, Freemasonry is about it is a peculiar system of morality veiled in allegory and illustrated by what? Symbols. That's right. So I just can't thank you enough for accepting our invitation.
If I just leave one last thought.
Absolutely.
Those of you who had a chance to look at the Tree of Life, I really enjoy studying the Tree of Life. It again delves into the importance of harmony, and it's almost like craft masonry has so much information in it that's embedded that when you start to go through information, you find yourself going back to the craft, the Blue Lodge, figuring out there was something in there that you missed that had been there the whole time, but you didn't pick it up. And that phrase, harmony, the strength of all institutions, I mean, it was so enlightening to me that I wrote that article that's on the Phylaxis Society website called Harmony, the Strength of All Institutions, because it was just so enlightening to me that I felt I had to get it out. And so I wrote that article and I put it on the Phylaxis Society website under Luxe manuscripts, because it was just like a light turned on for me. And so I'm hoping that that same experience that I have had a chance to do and to experience, that others will have a chance to do that as well. But the only way that you can do it is you got to step out of your comfort zone. Then you got to try something a little bit different. And Lux E Tenebris is just that. The Phylaxis Society is just that. It is different. It requires research. It requires dedication. But anything that's worth having is worth working for. And so you've got to go ahead and try it, work at it, get better at it, and I guarantee you it'll pay off in the end.
Well, hey, Brother Honeywell, I couldn't say it any better. As I told you before we got on the show, or we got on live, you believe it or not, you are actually one of the top people in my experience. I'm sure Brother Gillum would agree with me. You're one of the top people that we've had requested to be a guest on this show ever since our start. And I see Brother Gillum is agreeing with me over there. So you come highly recommended, and you have definitely left your mark, and we cannot thank you enough. Brother Gillum, I'll kick it over to you, I guess, for final thoughts.
Yeah, and with that, so many people wanted you on for the last episode. We did the history of Florida, but we already had this episode in mind. We already had the planning done. We was like, no, we need Brother Honeywell on for this. This is his thing with the Lux E Tenebris Chapter. And I said we can handle Florida, and it will probably seem a little odd to have you on for 2 consecutive shows. So like this is it. We already had the plan in motion. So and a lot of people ask like, why don't you have Brother Honeywell on? Now everybody knows the reason why, because we had this plan for this show already in place. We hope that everybody got something out of tonight. I know I did.
Sure.
I know there's gonna be tons of brothers and sisters out there that that's watching the show. Anytime you see a building with 3 entrances, you're gonna say, "Oh, Brother Honeywell taught me about that building. I know I'm gonna do it."
Listen. You don't understand. Like where I work, like I live in DC, so every time I go somewhere, I see some Masonic conspiracy, something going on, and so tomorrow when I go to work, I'm gonna be looking around like, oh, look, there's three doors. I mean, they're the rolling doors or whatever, but there's still three of them.
and so what I'm gonna ask is that if you're traveling, you see that building with 3 entrances, take a picture of it, post it in Think Tank group, #Honeywell. That's what I'm gonna ask. Or and so I know we're gonna have some outstanding pictures. So I definitely want to thank you all for the night. Thank you, brother, my classmate, Brother Honeywell. Looking forward to the reunion.
I am too.
Hey, there we go. Hey, before we go, I do want to make sure that we make mention, because the party doesn't just stop here, folks. Brother Honeywell has definitely left his mark tonight, but we definitely want to make sure that we keep you coming back. So we are proud to announce for the next episode of the Prince Hall Think Tank. Can y'all see that? The next episode of Prince Hall Think Tank will be remembering our forefather, the Prince Hall Monument, which is located in the great state of Massachusetts. We will have our special guest, none other than Brother James Young II, out of the jurisdiction of Michigan, who will be our special guest. Brother Young, I'm letting you know now. I'm sure you're out there watching. You better come with it, because Brother Honeywell, he done elevated the game. So you got to step it up, and I'm sure you will. So please come back and check us out next month, Sunday, May 28th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. We will be here, and we hope you will be too. Stop that. So yeah, definitely. So any other final thoughts before we sign off for the evening, gentlemen?
Brothers, again, I am so thankful to you for allowing me the opportunity to share my thoughts. And I am thankful to the audience for allowing me to share my thoughts with you. I do appreciate all of you. I appreciate you having me on. And brothers and sisters, if you see me, come up and say hello to me. I'd love to meet you. If I hadn't met you yet, I'd love to meet you if I happen to see you. And again, thank you so much. And I've really enjoyed the Prince Hall Think Tank. Thank you so much for having me.
Sounds good. Also, if you're not a member of Phylaxis, make sure you join and support the Phylaxis Society. Here we have a picture. Brother Honeywell, who is this dapper gentleman in the front here?
That is the current president, President Alex Smith, who is a past Grand Master of New Mexico.
Very good. So please support this. You definitely want to get this magazine. Go to the Phylaxis website, join, and also on the back. Yeah, I gotta embarrass you a little bit, Brother Honeywell. Who if y'all can see in the center there, Brother Honeywell, who is that, and why is he dressed that way?
That happens to be me in the center. Whenever you open Lux E Tenebris, the master has to open it dressed as Prince Hall, and so I went in and I opened Lux E Tenebris as Prince Hall according to the procedures and documents that we have, and they took pictures, and of course we had the book there, the 2017 transactions, and you can see the past president right beside me, past President Williams on the side of him, Brother Roundtree, and Brother Tahuti Evans. So I'm dressed as Prince Hall because you can't open Lux E Tenebris unless the master is dressed as Prince Hall. So that's me.
Man, hey, you're a better man than me, brother. But with that said, I'm past Master James Morgan, reporting here for also with the Brother Dave Gillarm, who wait, before we close out, wait, don't you got some news, Brother Gillarm, that you got to announce?
Well, there are several things. I definitely want to thank everybody for your shout out. My baby, she got accepted in this college, and she will be going to the Culinary Institute of America in San Antonio, Texas.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So I already hit up my partner, Brother Palmer. Hey, I need y'all brothers, San Antonio, Austin. Y'all gotta look out for my baby while she's down there. Also, this past weekend, myself and Brother Collins happened to meet up in Memphis, and we were looking through United Supreme Council archives, and and I know Brother Morgan. I see a look on his face already because he was kind of upset with this. And he's probably trying to mute my mic secretly right now.
Trying.
But some of the things that we saw in Ninth Supreme Council archives are amazing. I mean, when you can look at the minutes from 1880 to present day, it was amazing. Some of the things another thing that was in there was past Grandmaster Thornton Jackson's pistol. His actual pistol was in the archives. Notice I said his actual pistol, Brother Morgan. And I got to see it. Yeah. Willard Solemn Grand Commander and past Grandmaster Willard Allen's gavel was there. So it was an amazing experience. I learned so much. I know there's been talk about, I guess, requests by me and Brother Collins writing the history of the United Supreme Council. That's a little bit above my pay grade. That's Brother Collins' level, and he can talk to people that's at his level, and get them to do that. If I'm included, I'll be more than happy because it will be amazing to be able to write that history, and also be able to look at Thornton Jackson's pistol again. What were you saying?
Brother Honeywell, you see how they do me, man. They take trips and they go off and do things, man.
They leave you out.
But it's cool though, because I'm down with you, so it's cool. It's kind of even, like me. I think it's the thing. Brothers with glasses. Brothers with glasses got to stick together.
Brothers, y'all know before y'all get off, I got to give a shout out to jurisdiction of Florida. Now I cannot leave this show without giving a shout out to jurisdiction of Florida. Florida's been really good to me, and I'm just really honored to be a member of the Most Worshipful Union Grand Lodge of Florida. So I really just want to make sure I give a shout out to them and Jerusalem Grand Chapter, Order of the Eastern Star. So just want to make sure I did that.
There we go. And Brother Gillum, don't you have a movie coming out or something? Like you just all over the place.
Yeah, Terra Masonica, to my knowledge, will be available on Amazon. Be able to purchase that in DVD within the next couple of days. So as that gets updated, it's already premiered. It's already been in movie theaters in Europe, and there's actually been a couple lodges, I believe, in Scotland already. Mother Kilwinning Lodge even premiered the movie inside their lodge, which is a pretty cool thing. So as I get more information about when it's going to be available on Amazon, I'll be available for purchase. I will let everybody know that. And if you see me, I'm not a superstar. I'll write James Morgan's name on it so he can kind of feel like he's like somebody.
I'm gonna get you back to that one. It's not gonna be sniped, but I'm gonna get you back to that one.
I got nothing else, Brother Morgan.
Okay, well, all right then. Well, hey, reporting for Brother Gillum, Brother Honeywell. I am James Morgan, past master, and this is the Prince Hall Think Tank. We hope to see you all next month. Peace.